All right, my friends, Ruben Obed here, transmitting live from GB Music Group Studios. And give me a bear with me a second. We're kind of just setting something up here. All right, just setting something up. Um, all right, setting this thing up here. We're on live, but I want to use instead the my cell phone hotspot. But I really want to do that right now, so bear with me as I reset this. Reason being is that I've noticed that here, where in the area I live in Puerto Rico, for some reason the phone is a lot faster than the internet that I have. Um, you know, my cell phone internet's a lot faster, so so we're gonna try that. But for some reason, I'm not seeing it on. Let me turn this off. Okay. All right. I think we're back. I apologize if it was a little stuck, but I actually wanted to get on here. um, as a result of the hold on, let me close the door here because I can't hear. All right. As a result of the so many people watching the videos about off grid solar, and we are like bringing that little by little on this new channel. But I figured let me do a Q&A on here, just to get things started. um, I don't expect a lot of people to get on, if any. I mean, this channel is totally new. um, but it'll kind of give a format to people to give them an understanding of how it is we're doing this whole thing. So this is a Q&A. This one is about uh, off-grid living, solar, rainwater harvesting, survival tactics, etc., etc. And I'm taking questions if you have any. Um, I do a lot of videos that talks about religion and God and atheists and stuff. And some people might not like those subjects. And I mean, there's really nothing I can do about it. That's what I talk about. So, you don't have to share my same beliefs in that aspect. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion in terms of God and faith and whatnot. But in terms of survival, I think these principles apply to all of us, and I think it's important that if I, regardless of my, political or religious background, if I can provide people with beneficial information for their survival, I believe it's important that I do it. So I figured let me do the Q&A. um, if there are any questions, if since we got a few new subscribers today, as a result of those videos, and I want to welcome them. I mean, there are not many. Like I said, they might come on, they may not, but at least I want to open the door for you guys to ask questions regarding solar, regarding off-grid living, etc., and survival tips. Now, um, I'm a little bit. There's a lot of off-grid living videos. There are a lot of them. A lot of these people are people who live on homestead, on ranches. They live in Arizona. They live in places that are, open land. Some people live in the woods, etc. And that's fine. On the contrary, I live in an urban area, you know, and yet I've gone off grid, you know, and you don't see this happening much in urban areas. You know what I'm saying? When I say urban, then I live in the middle. I'm middle of town here in Puerto Rico, so it isn't like I live in New York City or something like that, but it is an urban area, where the majority, if not everybody, is on municipal water and on regular electric, right? But I chose to get off of that. Um, I built a 12-volt system. My 12-volt system I built with my own hands without any previous knowledge of electricity or anything. And it kind of, I was kind of forced into it because of Hurricane Maria. We did an entire year without power. So as soon as the power came back, and I had a little bit of money to work with, I started doing research. I had friends that gave me pointers, but relatively just on YouTube learn how to build a small 12-volt system, and I went expanding and expanding and expanding and watching videos and just learning more, and and I to a certain degree made it into like my obsession. Well, a couple years down the line now, I'm totally um, energy independent. I don't need the energy company. I have all of the comforts that somebody that would be on the grid um, would, without any of the contrary things. I don't have a monthly bill. I don't have to worry about power outages. I don't have to worry about anything. If a hurricane comes, I'm taken care of. Now, nothing in life is free. You know, you have to buy the solar panels. You have to do the research. You have to learn what you're doing. You have to buy the cable. There is an investment in the beginning. Now, once that is done, then hey, you're just coasting. Because anything that happens to your system, you'll know how to fix it. Any replacement part will probably be minimal in comparison with the entirety of the system. So, if battery goes bad, or if a cable goes bad, or if something goes bad, it's not a big deal. you know so I think that that's what's important with going off grid. With the water, same situation. I went off grid with water. We live totally off of rainwater, so I had to make the investment. I had to buy the cisterns, I had to buy the water pump, I had to buy the filters, I had to learn what filters does what. I have to keep track of the chlorination for the water, and make sure that it doesn't have any algae growing, and the UV lamps. Okay, but after you learn these things, everything's just second nature, just basic, little maintenance. um I can't speak of everyone off grid, because I am in a specific circumstance. For example, Puerto Rico, we have sun about 95% of the time. Really good, powerful sun. So I can get away with having a smaller solar system than maybe somebody who lives in, let's say, New Jersey, which the most part of the winter is kind of grayish and whatnot. Um, so you have to assess whether or not this will work for you in the place that you are living. Okay. Now, if money is no object, then hey, you could probably have 10 kilowatts of solar, and you have you could put a wind generator, and you could go all out. But that's not the reality for the most of us. And so, one thing that you have to really look at is where you're at. Do I have enough sun to do what I want? Do I install a solar system because I want to be 100% off grid, or do I want to install a solar system which is grid tied, which you know, um, which will just offset my electric bill? But if it's grid tied, once the grid goes down, your solar panels go down with it, so you're without power. You see what I'm saying? Those are all things that you have to take into consideration. You know, Me personally, I've opted. I said I don't want any connection to the grid. I don't want to pay. Puerto Rico, where I live now, currently has the highest price in electricity in the entire nation. I believe we're at like 30 cents a kilowatt. In comparison, let's say New York, which is about 18 cents or 19 cents a kilowatt. So electricity here is so expensive that I said, I'm not going to pay for that. I don't want to have a $250, $300 bill every month. just to run a couple of lights and a fan and a laptop. I'm not going to do it, you know. And so in my current situation, every month that goes by is money that I saved. You know, I don't have to pay. Now, am I doing without? Do I live like a caveman? Absolutely not. I run my business. I run a recording studio of all things, which requires a substantial amount of power. It's I live in a tropical island, so we need some fresh air, some fans, and I have internet. I have my freezers. I have my modem. I sleep with a fan at night. I watch TV. I charge my phones. I charge my Bluetooth speakers. I charge my drone batteries. I mean, the only thing that me personally am limited on at the moment is air conditioning. And the reason is that I've taken my relatively small system and created a system that works for me. Now, I could turn on an air conditioner with my system, but it wouldn't be too practical. So my goal in terms of air conditioning is going to be I'm going to build a totally separate system with its own batteries, with its own solar panels, which will be exclusively for the air conditioner. That way, it doesn't affect everything else I do over here. So that's the future plan. Probably this year, I'll be putting that together. You know, so at the moment, that is the only thing I can say that I am doing without in the time being. But do I have fans? Do we open up windows? Yeah, I live close to the beach, so in the summer, yeah, it does get kind of hot, but you figure out ways to mitigate those situations. Okay, now, um, in terms of water, right? In terms of water, here in Puerto Rico, especially the town where I'm living at, there's the town of Dorado. There's a lot of issues happening with sewage and with rivers that they're canalizing and a lot of stuff. And that ends up becoming a water problem. Now, I am not saying that the current government uh, has water issues here at the present time, like Flint, Michigan, etc. So that's not the case at the moment, at least from our perspective, of from what the government has said. But I don't worry about that because my water comes from the rain. So now that is another benefit that I have. I have ample sunlight and the consistency of rains here in this part of Puerto Rico is pretty good. So my wife and I, we don't have any children that live here. Um, we get by with three cisterns. Okay, I have the largest one is about 410. The other one's about 300. Another so the other is 200. So we're talking about approximately roughly about 1,000 gallons of water. Now, that's storage. But what happens is during the month, if one of the cisterns is about halfway, the other ones are still full, and all of a sudden it rained. So it's back to full. So the consistency of sun, the consistency of rain made my particular situation possible on a smaller scale. Now, that wouldn't be the case if I lived, let's say, in a place like Arizona, very dry land, where sometimes 2, 3 months go by and there's no rain, then in that case, I would not be able to get by with the amount of the size of water tanks that I have. So people who live in those arid areas, they'll have three or four 10,000 gallon um, cisterns. And when it does rain, and if there's like a monsoon or there's they fill up their tanks. Sometimes they go 3, 4 months just on that one rain that filled everything up. So, like I said, going off grid is great, but you have to analyze it. You have to analyze where you're at and how it's going to work. You have to analyze that. Look at how much sun you get. Look at how much rain there is. Is your place cold? Because if you live in a cold place, then heating, you got to figure out what you're going to do about heating. Now, I would in a situation like that, I wouldn't recommend electrical heating because it wastes too much. Then you might want to look at options like wood and propane, and things like that. So, um, I mean, is there a one way to do off grid? No, there's not. There's many ways to do off grid. Everybody does off grid in their way according to their circumstances. When I say off grid living, I'm talking also about the people who live the RV lifestyle. They have a total um, different set of barriers and challenges that they have to overcome when living off grid, or boondocking as they call it. you know I'm here to share like my wisdom, what I've learned, my experience. I learn, and I welcome other preppers and off-gridders to join the conversation, so that we can share different ways and methods of living off grid. And at the end of the day, this is just shared wisdom. This is wealth. And we if we want to share the wealth, a lot of Democrats. I'm a Republican. A lot of Democrats, they talk about sharing, wealth sharing, etc. Well, sometimes wealth has nothing to do with money, but wisdom is wealth. So I invite like people who are Democrats who are not Republicans. I invite them also to look at this at off-grid living, which is a lot of times it's associated more with people that lean to the right, but to take this as a sharing of wealth, because let me tell you, we can learn so much, so much. Um, there's a term that is used a lot, when you talk about things that are off grid, and it's a term that in the beginning I didn't like using it because I thought it was offensive, but then I figured, no, I realized it's not offensive. It's the term redneck. All right, redneck. Now, I live in Puerto Rico. I'm a Puerto Rican, but I grew up in the States, so I know what a redneck is. And a lot of my friends are rednecks. And rednecks, when you look up the term redneck on YouTube, you find a lot of people who do some crazy stuff. They'll take a big jug and make a jacuzzi out of it and stuff like that. And we kind of laugh at it, and but the reality is the whole redneck thing, the movement, let's call it a movement, is basically an off-grid prepping style mentality, making do with what you got, being creative. And I love it. I love the whole, living in the boondocks, redneck style, making, a tractor with an old car and a lawnmower or jerry rigged. Guess what, guys? When the shit hits the fan, when this becomes the Mad Max end of days type scenario, all of those skills are going to be the ones that are going to help you survive. Those things that you might think sound kind of funny right now, you know, those are the things that are going to help you survive. And I'm very open to that. I'm very open to that from any kind of culture, be it white, be it African, be it Indian. I watch a lot of off grid and solar stuff from India. Now, do I speak in Hindi? No, I don't. I have no clue what the hell they're saying. But I'm watching what they do in the videos. And these people in India, many of them are very poor. So when they set up solar, they do it in a poor, cost efficient way, which many times is what we can do. We probably don't have the money to do it the proper, most expensive way, the nicest and fanciest connectors. We probably can't do it that way. And these people that lived in poor nations, they still got to figure out a way to do it. So sometimes you gotta step away from the Americanized way of doing things and look at how other people that have less than you are surviving and doing it, because you learn a lot. And I'll give you a prime example. Like I said, I live off of rainwater, and my cisterns, when there's huge rain, The bottom of the cistern gets filled up with a lot of dirt and sediment. Okay, and this is water that we're using, so it has to be filtered. And although we have filters, the filters will get even dirtier faster if you don't take care of the sediment issue. So I went on a while back. I went on an Indian channel, and they took a broomstick, and they tied with zip ties a hose to it, and they put a little funnel in the end. And what they did is that they put that inside of the cistern, and they sucked air out so that the water that is inside the cistern would create a vacuum and it would start coming out. And basically, with that, it's like a manual vacuum cleaner that you could just pick up all of that sediment, and it's thrown out of the cistern. Now, mind you, it's not like this perfect cleaning. It's not like a cleaning as if you emptied out the whole tank. But when you live off grid, you don't want to throw away the water that you do have. All you want is to try and clean all that sediment out of the bottom of your water tank. Hey, that I learned from watching the Indian people. And it works perfectly. I do it every once in a while. If there are a lot of rains, get a lot of sediment, hey, I use that manual, vacuum there, and I pull out all the sediment. We lose a little bit of water, yeah, but the water that's coming out is basically just sucking up all of the sediment. So these are things that, if we look at it from the Americanized way of doing things, we would say, oh, well, let's go online because online they sell these pool vacuums that they work well for that. Okay, pool vacuums are actually pretty cheap. They're about maybe 18 bucks. It's like a nozzle and whatnot. But what if you don't have the money for that? What if you're in a shit down scenario and there is no internet? You still gotta clean the water tank. So sometimes it's better to learn how to do things, um as I say, ghetto style, because it's attainable a lot more easier. You're not gonna find a pool cleaner in a grid down in like in a shit hit the fan scenario, but you might find a piece of hose and a broomstick and maybe a little funnel, or maybe a Coca Cola, a plastic Coca Cola bottle that you can cut and turn into a funnel. You can make these things because you know the principles, and that's what off grid living is. It's about survival. I'm gonna give you a perfect example about survival. Toothaches. Now imagine this. You're in a Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome type situation. No health care, there's no dentist, and you have, oh my God, you got toothache. Your molars are hurting, and the silver caps came off, and that nerve is exposed, and every time you eat, you feel the pain go up into your brain, and you're dying, and you're going crazy. So how do you fix that? How do you fix that without a dentist? Many of you would probably put a bullet to your head. What you do is this: you got to analyze these situations. Why is the tooth hurting? The tooth will hurt for two reasons. The first reason will be um, infection. You're going to have a broken tooth, but then if there's no infection, it's not going to hurt. So you take some isopropyl alcohol, 70% preferably, put it in your mouth and swish it and leave it right there on top. Don't swallow it because that stuff is toxic. Just let it, marinate right there on top of the teeth, wherever it's hurting, and it'll burn. But at the same time, it's burning, but it is dulling the pain and it is calming that nerve. And at the same time, it is killing the infection. Now, if all you have is isopropyl alcohol, that'll help. Now, will the pain come back? Yes, it will. For the first day or so, the pain will come back. Now, if you couple that with some cloves, for example, you know that when you make a Christmas ham, the little sticks that look like cinnamon that you stick, they're called cloves. You take those cloves and you bash them up. You can find them at any supermarket for $1, cheap. Just like the isopropyl alcohol, you can get it for $1. Okay, and you crush these cloves into a powder, and you grab it with your hand and you stick it in there like if it was like a wad of tobacco, and you kind of bite on it a little bit to let it go into the cavity of the tooth, I guarantee you in less than 3 to 4 minutes, your toothache will disappear because cloves have eugenol. Eugenol is what the dentists use to calm the pain and the nerve. It has antiseptic properties and it also has antibacterial properties. So if you couple those things up, isopropyl alcohol 70%, it could be 50. Hell, if you can handle 90, use 90. You know, that's take care of the infection and pain. And you couple that with cloves, guess what? You're gonna be fine. You're gonna get rid of that toothache fast. Not a little bit, no, fast. I'm talking 3 to 5 minutes max. Now, will the pain come back eventually? Well, yeah. When you eat something, you might, hey, hurt the nerve a little bit. Deal with it. At least you're not gonna die from an infection that spread into your brain. Why? Because you have it under control with isopropyl alcohol. And the pain, you manage it with cloves. Now, if you have a dentist, I mean, if the shit hasn't hit the fan, well, you can use this same principle, now until you see your dentist. You won't be suffering that pain. You won't be taking Tylenol every couple of minutes because that's bad for the liver. What if you run out of Tylenol? You know, and these are things that are very important for people to know, especially if you're a father or a mother, you have children. In a shit hits the fan scenario, your child gets a toothache, you're gonna be going crazy. You're gonna be worried. Let me tell you, a toothache, you can die from a toothache. You can get an infection and it can go up into your brain and kill you. So how can you avoid that? Easily with some isopropyl alcohol. You know, I mean, and these are the things that we need to learn. This isn't about wanting to learn it or, oh, no, those are crazy preppers. No, you have to learn this. You have to be thinking about these things. Right now, the world, we're in the middle of a pandemic. We have Russia about to invade Ukraine. This can turn into World War III. So what I'm talking about can really turn into the shit hits the fan scenario for all of us, Democrats and Republicans alike, you know, and atheists and Christians. This all applies to you. Because let me tell you, an atheist toothache will hurt just as much as a Christian toothache. Toothache is a toothache and doesn't care what you are. And not only toothache, there are other ailments and other things that we can remedy. We can remedy them, simply. And that is what this channel is about. This is about sharing the wealth with people, sharing and showing people how to, how to mitigate these situations that can and will arise. You know, they can and will. So to end this video, keep that in mind, guys. Keep that in mind. You are able to make your own power. I'm living proof of it. Okay, I built my own solar system. I was not an electrician. I did it myself. I don't pay a bill. I live. Anybody walks into my house, they have no idea that I live off a grid. Why? I have freezers. I got TV. I got computer. I got my recording studio. I got my fans. I got the radio. Everything. My modem. And I did it with this. Now, who gives you the wisdom? God. You gotta have God. You know, and this is what I tell the atheists many times. God gives you this wisdom. God leads you in the right way to acquire the wisdom and puts you in the right path to acquire the funds and the necessary means to get the things for you for your own survival. You know, I've lived it firsthand. Had it not been for God, I would have been without a roof, with no power, with no water, with no food, with nothing. God has blessed me. So that's what I say. I'm not trying to bring God through your eyes, nose, and mouth, but I'm telling you what worked for me, what empowered me, and all of these things I want to share with you. I want to share with you my survival tactics, my survival wisdom, and I want to share with you also the gospel of Jesus Christ, so that not only you can be self-sufficient in your body and in your human experience, but the moment you pass on and you die, for you to be saved and you be prepared for eternal life. That's what I'm here for. So to a lot of atheists, I know you guys hate my guts, but at the same time, I'm just happy that you guys are at least listening, so that you guys can at least receive some of what I'm offering, you know, some. And like, I take the questions. Any questions you guys have, regarding solar, how to do things, you know, because at the same time, I've learned a lot listening to other people. I've learned a lot giving advice to other people, and then they run into certain situations that don't necessarily apply to my experience as an off-gridder. And then I said, you know what? Let me get back to you. Let me figure that one out. You see what I'm saying? So then I helped the other person, and then guess what? My wisdom increased. You see what I'm saying? So you never lose when you're trying to learn and you're trying to expand. So basically, guys, that's it. I see Yates Ramsey that logged on. Thank you. You're like, from what I see, you're like the only one that came on, but I appreciate. This is a new channel, so little by little we'll get our people. Um, and there is right now a big movement of people watching the videos, especially the off-grid videos that I have uploaded, which from yesterday to today, some have gotten 1,000 views already. So people like this subject, and in my previous channel, which was taken down by YouTube, people love this subject too, and I love this subject. You know, so I'm here to to show you guys and at least share what God has given me. So if you have any questions, feel free to write them below. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions about living off grid, about solar power, about rainwater harvesting, about God, spirituality, anything. I am an ordained minister. I am also a clinical HIV caseworker. I don't practice that as of right now, but I worked as that all of my life, so I have a lot of knowledge in that front that I can help people out with. And life has given me a lot. I've gone through a lot of things in life and have picked up a lot. I'm also a uh, professional music producer. I do music videos. I work with artists. I've been signed to Universal. I've worked with Sony Music, and I've worked with major record labels. So if you are looking for anything in that aspect, audio visual work, any type of that, music for original songs, that's what I do for a living. And so that's it, guys. Take care. God bless. Ruben Obed here, transmitting live from GB Music Group Studios in Dorado, Puerto Rico.